Welcome to the League of Women Voters at the Red River Valley Candidate Forum for the Moorhead School Board, doing this by Zoom for pandemic purposes. And we thank all the candidates who are able to be here. Barry Amundsen, you may see that name also as it is observing this live with us from the Fargo Forum. We would like to thank all the volunteers with the League of Women Voters who've helped with this. Whitney Oxendahl, your timekeeper. I'm Barb Hedrick, your moderator this evening. And you've all talked to Katie Rutter, who is our great organizer and Zoom aficionado. We in the League of Women Voters are a nonpartisan political organization, and we encourage informed and active participation in government and work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and even occasionally seek to influence public policy through education and advocacy. This candidate forum is part of our efforts to encourage educated voters and to give candidates a chance to reach more citizens in the best way we can. And we thank everyone for joining us, and we hope everybody gets out and votes either by absentee, or early or in person by November 3rd. And remember, in Minnesota, you can register to vote on election day. So we have 6 of the 8 candidates here today for the Moorhead School Board right now. And I apologize if this is not how to pronounce the name. Azat Haider is not here with us. And Matt Vallon, we couldn't get a hold of. And so the candidates we have here tonight, these are just in alphabetical order, are Cassidy Bjorklund, Melissa Burgard, Thaddeus Laugish. Laugish.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, Laugish. I only have to say that once. David Marquardt, Scott Steffes, and Sean Stumpf. Each of these people will be given 90 seconds to do an opening statement, and then we will go to questions, and each will have a chance, 1 minute to answer the questions. I've done a random draw to decide who goes first, and Thaddeus, you're the first to do your opening statement.
Okay. Well, my name is Thaddeus Laugish. I am a Minnesota resident for over 10 years. I am running primarily as a parent. I have a freshman as well as a first grader. Both have been only spuds their whole entire life. And unfortunately, I am not satisfied with the IEP approach that my oldest daughter has had. As my youngest daughter is going into the school system, I want to ensure that she doesn't follow the same path that my oldest has. Now, I understand that there are children that have difficulties that cannot be met by every aspect out there, but I'm here to see if there's any other options that we can focus on, as well as introducing trades to our students at a younger level so that we can actually have more skilled laborers for our community that can stay with our community, as well as reaching out to the new Americans as well as the other students that do not have the ability to have distant learning connections through either doing a recycle program that we can ask for people to donate their gently used, discarded iPads, Chromebooks, tablets, what name you, in order to get them wiped and be provided so that we can have our students have equity connection to their curriculum. So that is just a few reasons why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Scott.
Thank you, Barb. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and for giving us this opportunity for the voters to listen to us this evening. This is an unprecedented time we have in the United States with the pandemic, the social issues going on within this country, and I look forward to working with Moorhead area public schools, administration, board members, staff, and the community to move forward with the 2021 school year and have the best school year that we can. As a community, we need to collaborate, listen, and form partnerships to come up with solutions of these uncertain times. So I look forward to serving the citizens of Moorhead area public schools for the next 4 years with my leadership and to look to the future of providing technology and continuing with the new high school and the Career Academy, which is very exciting to me to have this Career Academy opening up for new chapters within the students' lives and new areas of learning that we can start. So I look forward to this, and I thank you again for having us.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you, Barb. So my name is Melissa Burgard, and I actually grew up in Moorhead, went to school in Moorhead, graduated from Moorhead Senior High School, attended college in Moorhead, and did obtain my master's degree in social work from Minnesota, U of M. So my husband also grew up in Moorhead, Rick Foster, and our two children also are growing up in Moorhead and attending Moorhead area public schools. I am very proud to say that my father-in-law actually was a school board member as well. So I really enjoyed the last almost 4 years as a school board member. And I'm very proud of some of the accomplishments that we have made along with administration, staff, teachers, community. Looking very much forward to the building the new high school, to the career technical academy. And I am just very excited and hopeful to continue another 4 years as a school board member in Moorhead. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cassidy.
Hi, thanks. First, I wanted to thank the League of Women for hosting this and getting this all set up to help voters make informed decisions. As Barb said, my name is Cassidy Bjorklund. I'm a lifelong SPUD, and I currently serve on the Moorhead School Board as the chair. I've been involved in a multitude of ways throughout the district, from PTAC president to subbing in the schools. My husband and I have 3 kids, all proud SPUDs, and it was because of them that I found myself wanting more information and wanting to know about the district. And that was my main reason for running 4 years ago. It's been an honor to serve our community, but most importantly, it's been an honor to serve our students for the past 4 years. And I'm seeking re-election to continue projects I've started and to build on goals the district has in place.
Thank you. Sean?
Hello, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for setting this up. I appreciate it as well, and letting us all get our voice out there to the people. I've lived in Moorhead for nearly 2 decades. I currently have 2 children in the district, one at Dorothy Dodds, one at Horizon Middle School. I have another child who graduated from Moorhead and now attends Minnesota State University Moorhead. Go Dragons, it's my alma mater as well. And my wife is the treasurer of the Dodds PTA. But I'm not worried about my children's education. I'm not concerned about how they'll do because they have a good support system at home. That's not why I'm running. Why I'm running is for all the other children in Moorhead who don't have that. So I'm running to give back and to help out the children that have social, economic, cultural, health, or other barriers that are impeding their learning and working to find a solution for those problems. I'm confident that my background as a CPA, business owner, college instructor, and volunteer will be an asset to the board if I'm elected. You can learn more about me at seanforschoolboard.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/Sean Stumpf. Thank you, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, Barb. I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity tonight to the voters of Moorhead to see the views and the ideas of the future candidates of Moorhead School Board. Like Barb said, my name is Dave Markwart, and I've lived in Moorhead for the last 15 years. I'm married to my wife, Mindy, who is a social worker for Fargo Public Schools. We have 3 children in the district, Leah, who is a junior, Lincoln, who is a freshman, and Avery, who is a 6th grader. I was an elementary teacher for over 20 years in Fargo until recently when I started my new position as a field consultant with North Dakota United. In running for the school board, I'll be advocating for strong education and opportunities for all students, making our teachers and support staff a priority in our district, and safeguard the health and safety of the students and staff in our schools. Now more than ever, these individuals need leadership from the school board. We need to make sure the students' basic needs are met, whether it's physical, social, or emotional, as well as the needs of our staff, as they are facing these same needs. I'm committed to my career. I have committed my career to public education with a teaching degree of over 20 years. I'm now able to give back to the community as a part of the Moorhead School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will start with our questions, and the first question will start with Scott. What are the top challenges currently facing Moorhead schools that you want to address if you are elected to serve on the school board? Oh, we can't hear you, Scott. You don't have, yeah, your mute button is still on. Try again.
I'm sorry. I believe that our top priority right now is going to be the achievement gap that we have in the community right now between the white and minority students. We need to come up with ways to shrink that achievement gap and help the children who are trauma students and be able to work with them to bring that achievement gap down. The next thing that we need to look at is the funding that we have within the school districts. Minnesota is very lagging behind when it comes to funding. We spend about $6,500 per pupil compared to North Dakota, which can be $10,000 to $12,000 per pupil. So we need to work with our legislators to keep continuing to bring that money up in order to keep those special programs going that we have and that we need in the Moorhead School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, so I guess one of the biggest challenges that we have ahead of us is, in my opinion, equity and inclusion for our students within the district, particularly now when there may be some barriers and boundaries and difficulties for students to participate in different educational opportunities or challenges and the mode of delivery of the education as well. This impact will be great as we go through this particular time right now, and I think we really need to take a hard look at that and be able to deal with that as we come out of these challenging times that are going on right now with everything that's going on, as well as another big challenge that we are going to face is definitely funding. As we go through and make provisions to provide an equal education as good as we can, we will be looking for more funding opportunities as we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassidy?
I agree. The equity and inclusion and disparity gap are our biggest challenges right now facing our district. I think that we need to find ways, creative ways, to get families involved into our schools so that we have lifelong learners. They want to be part of our schools. They want to be part of our school system. We have implemented a program called the BAR program, and that will assess students along the way, weekly, monthly. Teachers and staff and administration will decide how long those students will be, or how far apart those students will be assessed. And I think that will help decrease that achievement gap at that point. We need to find a way to keep bumping up that graduation rate, and we need to figure out how to make it fair for everybody to move forward in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Well, I'll have to agree. Great minds think alike, we'll say. And I'm kind of biased. I'm an accountant, so I'm going to say funding. And funding is an issue. I've looked at the annual operating budget, and you're right at that magic 17% number where it's a tipping point. And if you look at the future years, I encourage you to go out and look at the annual operating budget. It's not looking good. Of course, there are a lot of question marks. What will the state provide and things like that will happen in any given year. But funding is definitely important. And if we're going to do the things that we'll talk about tonight, candidates have talked about in the past, and even teachers have talked about at the board meeting last night. One of the teachers said he expressed a need for funding for special education. We can't get anything done if we can't pay for it. And I think we're really at a close tipping point. in trying to do all the things we'll talk about tonight, including bridging the disparities. Money won't solve everything. You have to, one, bring in the right amount of money, but also spend it judiciously in the right places.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Obviously, yes, funding will be an issue, but I think two other big issues will be how we get our students back into the school safely and in a way that that we work together as a community to make sure it's a safe way. And I think we don't want to do it in a way that we fight each other, but we want to fight the virus instead. So I think it's important that we get working together to find the best way to get our students back in the school, getting the education that they all deserve and have been getting in Moorhead for the past. But also, I think another concern will be if we're not careful, the burnout of our teachers and our staff, support staff. So my concern is that we support them, we invest in them, we make them a priority, and that we make sure that they're doing okay. Because if they burn out and we don't have the great teachers that we currently have, and they decide to leave the district, I think that'll be a huge detriment to our district. So I think really making sure that we invest in our teachers and work together to make this a positive reconnection back to our schools and being in person will be vital.
Thank you, Thaddeus.
Of course, the disparity is a big issue with new Americans and the 30% that are not meeting what the white population is doing. I feel that we need to help that by providing more diversity in our school system so that those new American students do have people that they can rely to that help with the communication and help with that connection between the school system as well as the parents that don't necessarily know the English language as much as the children do. I mean, there's multiple reasons why we have this gap issue, and we need to literally address all of them. And funding doesn't necessarily the answer to address some of them. It's a matter of asking for even volunteers to step up and be that bridge between that community and our school system. That, for us as a community, is a huge one that we do have to meet, especially with the distant learning issues that we currently have.
Thank you, and I think you'll find that we're about to have some follow-up questions on many of the things you all have been discussing. And we start with this one with Melissa. Moorhead schools have been repeatedly cited by the Minnesota Department of Human Rights for bias against students of color. What programs will you institute to help finally address this decades-long issue?
Well, I think one of the things we need to take a look at as we're working towards our educational plans and our goals and our missions of the Moorhead area public schools is that we would like to have and should have more representation for our students in their given backgrounds, their diversity, and their to be able to represent them in a way of being a role model as a teacher. So I think one of the things that we need to look at and have looked at, but really need to dig into, is to be able to hire our teaching staff to be able to represent some of our students and to be able to be role models for our students as their teachers and as teachers usually are. So that's one of the things I wanted to, address. Thanks.
Thank you, Cassidy.
So one of the things to help with that would be we have a seed program in the district, and while it's not super popular, it is super effective. The people that have taken the seed program have said it is life-changing. They can address their disparities, they can learn their personal biases, and they can get feedback from their group. And it's a group that what you say in that group stays in that group, and but you do learn how to address biases. And I think it's important for everybody in our district to learn how to address biases. I know that our administration has taken the SEED program and that's trickling down to our staff and our all of our staff, frankly. And those lessons are invaluable. We have to teach people, and we have to teach them with an open heart and an open mind, and work together.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, I wish there was a like button some of these times on the little responses, but there's not. I think recruiting and hiring staff, more minority staff, is important. If you look at the 1819, I forget what it's called, but it's a report the school puts out on annual performance. They said they had about 3% of staff, and I think it was teaching staff specifically, that were minorities, and 30% of students were minorities. And I think the population of student minorities has grown since then. So it's a tenfold problem. So definitely recruiting those staff. But to recruit those staff, you need to be able to want to recruit staff and keep the staff you have in general. You want to make an environment where people want to work, and it makes it easier to recruit those people. I also, the like button on Thaddeus about volunteering. Volunteering, I think, is another way of bridging the gap for funding. So you're getting people providing labor without a cost, and having people volunteer that have community ties, bridging that gap that way is maybe an easier, quicker first step than the hiring decision, which may take weeks, months, or years. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you. I really think it's going to take a community effort. It's going to take us all working together and having collaboration amongst our community to say, what can we do and how can we work together to make this better? I think if it's, community ed offerings of classes for our community, for anyone who's able to take them and willing to learn more, I think it's bringing in past students who've been successful and who have a great story to tell and can help other minority students to achieve great things as well. And I think it's just the opportunity that we offer all of our students, and that they have we offer the best education to all of our students, and to give them the support that they need to be successful. It's even if it's, bringing a little book of books home at night and elementary level, and it starts very young, and it's offering them at the, offering the pre-K to have make sure that they're involved in that as well. So I think just working together as a community and working the best we can to make sure that we do better.
Thank you. Thaddeus?
Personally, first we have to admit that the bias exists. There's entitlement that exists. There's traditions that exist that even myself have taken some of them for granted until the silver linings of some of the protests that have happened even this year. There are things that even the white folk do take for granted, and they are entitlements. And we need to first acknowledge those and then look at our system and see what traditions are biased towards one race versus another, and actually systematically go through and correct those biases so that we can actually eliminate the issue instead of just putting band-aids over it time and time again like we constantly have in the past. That's a first step that I think that we should take in order to address the biasism before we can actually change it. So is admitting that it exists and then looking at the structure of it.
Thank you. I believe we're about to be joined by our last expected candidate, but Scott, go ahead and answer the question, and then we'll see. We'll sort of jumble things here for Izat Hayter and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you, Barb. I agree with the other candidates that we do need more staff diversity. I know the district has been working hard in trying to bring in staff diversity, and it is a tough thing to do. We're trying to get that done, and it's something that we'll continue to do. And as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most important things to bring in diversity for the staff, for the biasness. The SEED program, like Cassidy said, is a wonderful program. There is so much that we can do with that program. We just need to get it implemented within the district and get it going here. We also need collaboration within our district with those ethnic groups that are out there to work on, like Thaddeus was saying, the challenges of just speaking to each other because of a language barrier. Thank you.
Thank you. Izat, can you hear me?
Yes.
You've come in a bit late, so we're already into the question. So I'm going to give you the question everybody else got, so you have a chance to answer it. Okay?
No problem. Yeah, I was having
Technical difficulties, I'm sure.
Yes, a technical difficulty. I was ahead of time, like 5 minutes ahead of time before the time of the meeting, but I couldn't find the link to the meeting. Sorry for that.
That's okay. So this is the question everybody's answering right now, and we're going around and changing who starts each one. So the question is: Moorhead schools have been repeatedly cited by the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, for bias against students of color. What programs will you institute to finally address this decades-long issue?
For the students of color, we have a lot of many issues related to those that sector or that part of the education. So one of them, I would for the suspension for the misbehaving, I will look for alternatives to better bring the equity opportunities to the students, and the idea of not leaving the vulnerable students to failure, just leaving them behind, but finding alternatives to better incorporating them in the system and the process.
Thank you. For the third question, Cassidy, we will get this question first. If elected, how would you balance health and safety during the pandemic and getting students back to in-person learning?
Yeah, that's tricky. We've been working with that now, and I really think that it takes a community. Keep sending out those messages that it takes the community to fight this pandemic. Not everybody's in there by themselves. We need to listen to what the community needs are at that point, and we need to work together. We need to follow the state guidelines. Our ultimate goal is always going to be the student safety, but we need to make sure that we're following guidelines and that we're getting the community word out that this is the guidelines, and we need to keep following them in order to make sure that all of our students stay safe.
Thank you. Sean?
I think this has really opened up what school can be and what we can do with school and what the options are. So I think you need to follow the experts and their guidance and the state guidance as well, but not force students and families into a certain thing to have to conform to in person or not. We'll have to kind of ease into it because people have different health situations and also different vulnerabilities and just general anxieties about it and feel differently about it. And it's important to allow them to ease into it with what's comfortable for them. So if they want to continue distance learning, find a way to incorporate that into the general classroom until they feel better, because students that don't feel safe and their families are anxious or they're anxious, they're not going to learn. And that's really what we're talking about tonight in general, is getting rid of those barriers. So slow it down and don't create additional barriers just because it's maybe easier and more familiar and more convenient to have students in the desks.
Thank you. David?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really going to be important that we work together as a community on this. It's going to be considerate of each other. Each of us have our own personal story of how it's affecting us and how it's not, and what we can do and can't do. So I think it's going to be, like I said prior, let's fight the virus, not each other. So I think it's going to take a community effort, just working together. What are the guidelines that we need to follow to make sure that we are in person? But I think it's important that everyone wants the kids back in the school, and that the teachers want to see the faces of their students. And it's not that's not the problem. It's what we do safely to ensure that everyone can get the best education and the best way they need to be. And I think it's also, for some students, the Sweat Academy is the best thing ever for them. And if that's an option going forward to continue, I think that's great. But for some students, they need to be in person as well. So just give them a lot of the options of what works best, and work together as a community.
Thank you. Am I getting your name at all close, by the way?
Yeah, it's like it's Arabic, it's Izzat, but if you pronounce it in English, it's Izzat. Yeah. So I will build a better coordinated system to deal, for bringing our students to the schools. I will adapt a strategy of building small schools or small groups inside our schools and coordinating all the pieces, separating them from each other, not a big school. I want many small schools inside our school, each one of those small schools using a different a different door for getting in and getting out. And that small classes that we're talking, those small schools or classes that we're talking about, we, building a coordination between their families, the families between themselves and with the systems and, the data and updates always.
Thank you.
Yeah, in
Thaddeus?
that,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, in that case, I will bring all the students to the schools.
All right. Thank you. Thaddeus?
Well, one of my former titles with my position of 12 years is a safety director. And one of the hardest things to do working for a construction company is to follow OSHA guidelines when the guys are doing the work. That has to be said with our children and this virus and our teachers, because those are our most important assets for our community and our future. Our children's education determines what our community will be in the next 10 to 20 years. And the more that we realize that, and the more that we focus on the virus more so than if the kids should be physically in a classroom versus a computer monitor, needs to unfortunately take place. Yes, we have parents that have to work. Yes, there are credits that people can get for child care. Once again, a community does need to come together in order to help take care of this virus. We need to have parents that are willing to take in other kids and make sure that they attend their studies as well. So it's just a matter of a communal effort.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. I think we need to continue to collaborate with the staff and the community in order to make our schools safe for everyone. Everybody going in and out of that, the janitors, the workers within the school, the cooks, the custodians, they need to do as much as they can in order to keep the place safe and clean, along with the students and the teachers. We need to follow the state guidelines. And the biggest thing is we just need to be flexible, be able to work with each other when we have a concern that comes up, come up with a way to fix that concern, along with keeping the students in school or in a hybrid, or even if it's a distance learning. We're always going to have something in there that's going to complicate things, and we just have to remain flexible to make sure everybody feels safe. Thank you.
Thank you. And Melissa?
Yeah, so I guess, our number one priority as a school district is to educate the students. And so I'm 100% certain that for most cases, and for our teacher staff and for a lot of the administrators in the buildings, that it's important to have our kids in school if the comfort level is there, and if that's where they are going to thrive. I am very happy that we have the opportunity for Spud Academy, because that way there are opportunities for kids to receive education and receive our first priority by the Spud Academy participation. I think it's important to move towards and have that goal of getting kids into the schools, but also to look at the safety and to look at the cohorting as we have been doing. But I think the priority is to get the kids in school in the safest manner, looking at the data, and that's my answer. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. We'll start with Sean. If a budget shortfall occurs at the state level next year due to the pandemic, how do you propose balancing the budget locally? Are there any areas you would not consider cutting?
Yeah, there are a number of areas I would not consider cutting. Obviously, as Melissa just said, I'll paraphrase here. Really, our goal is to educate the students. So we have to educate the students. That means we have to give the resources, whether it's technology, textbooks, whatever, to the students so they can learn first and foremost. The people actually delivering the education are the teachers. So the teachers and the students need to get their funding. That's the main objective. That needs to occur. Beyond that, you have to be a little bit more creative. I haven't had the liberty of seeing the detail behind the budget. I have seen it. I have seen the future budget surplus decreases, I guess, that I'm concerned about. So I'd really have to dig in deep, roll up my sleeves, use my financial education experience as a CPA, a business appraiser, forensic accountant, to really dig into the numbers and see what can kind of be moved around, and maybe using more unique strategies like Thaddeus had mentioned about volunteering to kind of bridge the gap. But really, you got to pay teachers and you got to buy resources for students.
Thank you. David.
Yeah, ultimately, the most important investment will be the students and the teachers and the support staff that are in our buildings. That's the one thing that for sure that we do not want to cut. It depending on how drastic of cut we would have to make. If it's pretty major, I would like to see some input. If it's community, small group gatherings of what's priorities, what do you see as what's the most beneficial, what do you think that if this has to be cut, what would you see? I'd hate to make it just a 8 or 9 person decision, but I think it's a community decision if it's major. So, but I know for sure that the students and the staff are our investment that I would for sure want to keep.
Thank you. Ezit?
I also agree with that idea, students' resources and the funds that we spent on our students, and that's the most important priority for us, that to keep it to us the last, us the last thing. And again, for our teachers and staff also in the same way, I would maybe, cut some of the, side sources that they are not reflecting that much into the program. They are ways for making it better, but they are not directly connected to it. And of course, like as the others mentioned, I will totally 100% reach out to the community to ask for their opinions and also reach more donors to, to fill that gap.
Thank you. Thaddeus?
I feel that when it comes to budget decreases, and it's something that we see constantly, unfortunately, usually the needs are being cut, and that we can't do that. We need to keep the food program. Most children lose focus in their education when they have hunger pains. I am a personal victim of that growing up myself. I did not have lunch as a child. In the school system, I was humiliated by the staff because I didn't have a lunch with me, and it ruins you as a child to where you focus on that more so than you do on your education. We also need to ensure that our teachers are in the school because those are the ones that are giving the education to our students. Things that we need to lose focus on are the wants, the perfect jerseys, the perfect sports gear, the perfect this and that we always tend to focus on when we need to start focusing more on the quality of the education rather than the other fluff.
Thank you. Scott?
Well, I agree with Sean that you really have to look at how much your budget shortfall is going to be. And my number one concern would be losing or having to not bring back all the staff that we need. That'd be my first goal, is to make sure we have enough money for the staff so that the students do get a good education. My second priority would be the student services, the mental health services, the special education services. Moorhead School District is very well known for those services, and those are services that we need to continue no matter what. The third thing would be technology. That is one thing I believe we do need to have. If we need to cut back on things, I think we could look at collaborating with our businesses or some other groups in order to bring some dollars in to help with that shortfall also. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
So I have a different way to go about answering this question. I believe that the administration that we have within Moorhead Area Public Schools has really worked hard, as well as the board and the whole community, to make sure that we have a sound, we remain within a sound budget. I have to say that I'm not going to say after all of this happens with COVID that we haven't exceeded what we had planned to spend. Obviously, being able to provide technology and additional teachers and additional support staff as we have. I don't want to speculate on what I would be willing to cut until we know what that shortfall will be. I do also believe that we could take some time in order to accommodate, to make up for some shortcomings if we have to, and not make any drastic measures unless we have to make up for that budget deficit, and look for outside funding sources as well. Most people have mentioned that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Cassidy?
Yeah, so my first thing that, my top thing that I would absolutely not cut would be our teachers. 80% of our budget is made up of our teacher salary, and we need to make sure that that stays there for our teachers. And we need to keep our support systems in place. Melissa, I agree with Melissa. There's a lot of tools in a school board's tool belt that they have where they can have options to move some money around, and they can have options to spend differently. So I think there'd be a little bit of time, but you would actually evaluate and be creative with the solution. You can't, there might not be a black and white answer, that it might just come off piece by piece off that budget.
Cassidy, you're freezing on us a little bit. I don't know how you were finishing, but now you've frozen completely. Hopefully she'll come back. That was the last person to answer that question. Sean, you get to start on this question, which is related. How does a school board balance the need, no, not Sean, I'm sorry, should be David. How does a school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden?
Yeah, I think it goes along with the budget. It's just, I think it's building alliances with our leaders, state leaders, our municipal, there we go, leaders as well, to get the funding that's needed for, at the state level, federal dollars as well. If it's grants, looking at the community for building alliances with the medical field as well, whether it, be doctors or something else. I think just looking at the overall budget and seeing how we can make it all work out and balance. So.
Thank you. Ezra? Unmute your microphone, please. There we go.
I would look for a better like net of collaborators in order to not to allow the sectors of like the education systems to be affected by the virus, and that would be my answer for it. And one more thing, if we become in the corner, I will close one of the schools, and the money that we spent on one schools, I will add it to the other schools.
Thank you. Thaddeus?
Well, looking at balancing the budget, you would have to see what the numbers are, of course, and see where you can allocate. Sponsorships with big corporations that do rely on the education of our students, as well as their employers' children taking or receiving our education. We should possibly look more into a scholarship program through, I'm sure Walmart already does that, but we have Amazon coming into Fargo. Even though that it is Fargo based, they're still going to have workers that do live on our side of the river. Most of your Moorhead parents do work in North Dakota. So we need to partner up with our community, and we need to outreach for volunteers again, as well as other additional support where we might need it.
Thank you. Scott?
Well, for local taxpayer burden, you're basically looking at referendums and bonds that the schools have had throughout the years. We need to work with the state to bring up the per pupil dollars. Like I said before, we're looking at $6,500 to $7,000 that the school district receives right now per pupil. And that is way below what we should be getting at this moment because of what happened in 2009 when the market crashed and the state went and did not bring us any more dollars or give us any more dollars into our school districts. And we've been working from behind ever since then. So we need to work closely with our legislators in order to bring these dollars up and continue to work with them in order to keep those dollars in an area where these school districts aren't always out looking for money from the local taxpayer for the burden. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Scott and what he said. You know, what we get per pupil, it needs to increase, obviously. We need to reach out to our legislatures. We need to be informed. We need to speak out on behalf of our school district and all of Minnesota schools. I think another thing we need to look at is making sure that our community and our schools are appealing for our students, and as well as appealing for individuals who may want to be moving into a community like ours, so that we don't lose any students and that we potentially gain students and families within our community. So I think that there's two ways to look at that, you know, to increase funding so that we don't have to burden our taxpayers with things that unnecessarily, and also just keep our community and our schools positive to fulfill our enrollment.
Thank you. We seem to have lost Cassidy, and I haven't seen her trying to get back in again. Hopefully she can reconnect and join us. But we'll go on to Sean.
Okay. I agree with Scott on seeking additional and maybe more sustained, consistent state funding. And I also agree with Melissa on school quality. But locally, I think we need to look at what we can control in our own community and not just hope that we'll get more and more money. I mean, that always is a component of it. But one way you can do it is with transparency. So people that are parents, maybe it's an easier sell, or people that are employees of the district, it's an easier sell. But for property taxpayers that say, I don't work there, I don't have any kids there, you need to show them what a good education does for the community and the economy, having higher quality employees, business owners, people spending more money and bringing more money into the community in the long term. Also about people coming into the community, if we can find a way to kind of ratchet up the quality of education in Moorhead, and we become the gem of the metro area, a lot of these problems, people will be moving to the community, and people will not really complain about, man, my taxes went up, because they're going to see why they're paying more money. And I think they'll be happier to do it because they'll see what they're paying for.
Thank you. Welcome back, Cassidy. I'm going to read you the question everybody's been answering and give you a chance to answer, okay?
Great, thank you.
How does a school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden?
So, you know, I think, again, that comes with communication and finding out what the taxpayers want, and, you know, involving all the stakeholders in that, making sure that you have, I'm sorry, I'm flustered. I was trying to reconnect to my internet.
Yes.
Making sure that you have community engagement and involvement, and having just making sure that you have their opinion constantly, and always meeting the needs of their students and their staff, and looking at the budget as a whole rather than just parts of it. And yeah, I'm gonna go with that for right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting back.
It was a task.
We're gonna ask one more question, and you get to start this one. And hopefully this might even lead into maybe some thoughts that you'll have for some of your final statements after we finish this question. What differentiates you from the other candidates and board members? And don't forget to unmute.
I'm bringing the cultural competence to the board, so that's one of the point. And I'm connecting the boards to the color community. I'm raising the issues that color community already have, especially during the pandemic, the pandemic time. I'm raising some concerns, you know, some some, let's say like yesterday I already mentioned something that the soccer stadium scales is one of the basic needs in the Maslow's hierarchy for us new Americans. So we need those kinds of programs in the elementary schools to help our students to build skills, creativity, teamwork, and leadership, and to help them to be more motivated in their schools. So I'm coming to the board. I'm bringing those ideas to our schools.
Thank you. Thaddeus?
Well, the other hat that I wear at my work of 12 years is a designer of ag commercial facilities. That's where I have to take clients' input with reality, with budget, and make it happen. I have been done well with this for the past 12 years, like I said, and I feel that if I rather utilize those ideas to bring fresh thoughts to the board, as well as bring in open-minded welcoming of communication, such as instead of having Spanish as a secondary language, we should be looking at Arabic as well as Somalia languages so that we can bridge these communication gaps, not just on adult levels, but also on a children level as well.
Thank you. Scott?
Well, what I think that makes me different or makes a difference about me and from the other candidates is my ability just to listen to people. I'm very approachable. I like to listen to the community, get input from teachers and staff, talk with the students. I like being out there and just talking with people and learning what they're looking for in the Moorhead School District. I'm able to go out there and strike up a conversation. So my best quality is just listening. The other thing I think makes it different than the other candidates is the 8 years I've been on the Moorhead School Board. We've gone through 2 bonds and school additions and learning the differences with the school board budget. The school's budget is one of the most difficult things to ever learn, and Sean's probably better at that than me with the CPA, but it is tough, and it's I think that makes a quality right there. So thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Well, I think what makes me stand out, I guess, from the rest of the candidates is my background in education, in terms of social work, administration, being part of the school board, which isn't different than some of the other folks on this call, but also having that background in clinical research for 25 years with a master's in social work gives me the ability to look at information with a skeptical eye, really dig into the background and data, which I think is important for a lot of answers that we need to look at and solve, as well as understand social justice and inequalities based on my educational background in social work. So I think I stand apart with my work and my education experience together. So thank you.
Thank you. Cassidy? Unmute, Cassidy.
So I think what makes me different from the other candidates is, you know, I'm lucky enough to be able to field calls from teachers, from staff, from students, parents, and I'm not afraid to go to administration and talk with them to find solutions. There's been multiple times when I've had a different opinion, and I'm not afraid to let that known. And so I think that's what helps me stand out. I'm going to do what's best for the students. I'm not going to do what's best for administration. I'm not going to do what's best for, I'm going to do what's best for our students always. And I'm going to put them number one, and they're going to be my first priority. And every decision I'm going to make is going to be based on the students. So thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
All right. Well, I think I've alluded to it a few times. I think there's kind of a little bit of a gap on the board right now as far as skill in accounting and finance. I'm a CPA. I have a niche practice that works on business valuation and forensic accounting primarily, very complex multi-million-dollar problems I testify in court on. So I feel very comfortable with that. Now, fund accounting, and I'll agree with Scott, that's a whole different thing. I'm also familiar with fund accounting. I was tested on the CPA. I've worked in a fund accounting environment in the past for a bid-based environment. So I'm understanding the iterations of things and the cost per unit or student, how to get to that. So I think I fill that gap, but I'm not just this overachiever, and I haven't always been this overachiever. I wasn't at the top of my class in high school. The first time I went to college, I dropped out. So I understand hard work and what it takes to kind of get beyond those failures and really get back into learning and be a non-traditional student and succeed. So I think that and my experience as an educator at the college level would really be an asset to the board.
Thank you, David.
I think what kind of makes me unique is my background in education, as I was an elementary teacher for 20 years in Fargo. I was local president of our association with Fargo EA. I've negotiated many contracts for our teachers. I've sat through creating policy, creating contracts and those things, which is kind of unique to most candidates on the board. I understand the role of the teachers. I understand the fight that they're going through currently to the burnout rate overall nationwide, the teachers who are leaving the profession because of different issues that are happening. And I guess I can also sub. I have a license to teach, and so I could be in the schools, and I think that's the critical part. I would be want to be a liaison to the schools and be in there and see what's happening, what's going on. And also because of my current job, I'm currently always reading book studies on education and the current trends. So I'm very up to date on what's happening in our schools, in our public schools. It's my daily job to continue to be involved in several locals and public schools districts throughout the state of North Dakota. And so I think my background in education is very important for this position.
Thank you. We now go to 1 minute closing statements, and Thaddeus, we're back to you starting again.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'd like to thank the other candidates for being with us here. I am honestly glad to hear most of the candidates have great ideas, including some that are my own, to push forward to where I'm confident that at least I know that 7 of the 4 for sure, at least 4 will decently fill the spot that is needed for our school system. I want to focus though on our trades as well as our gaps between new Americans and our school system. We need to, as a person that is in the construction field for 12 years, I have seen a demand for every trade you can think of. And we have technical schools in our community that can provide that training. We just need to encourage our students in order to say, hey, you have another option than academics that you can make a killing on as far as salary goes. And we just need to be willing to step up and make those connections happen for our students as well as our community.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. I'd also like to thank all the candidates that are in the forum tonight. It's been a pleasure to discuss this with you. And in the past 8 years, I've been on the Moorhead School Board as a member and as a leader. I've learned to understand complex budgeting of schools, hiring of staff, and have supported several new programs such as the Career Academy that, like Thaddeus was talking about, that we're going to get in the Moorhead School District, which I think is the most greatest thing we've ever done. I've been the treasurer, vice chair, and chairperson. I've also been on numerous committees, strategic planning, community collaboration, just to name a few. And, you know, during my term as a chairperson, I led the board in hiring of the new superintendent and passing of a bond for the new high school and career academy. And we passed that bond with about 70% approval. So, you know, I've always tried to listen to students, be part of the community and staff, and listen to the community and staff, and it'll be a privilege and an honor to serve MAPS for the next 4 years. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just really wanted to thank you for hosting this forum to be able to have our local community get to know the candidates. So thank you to the League of Women Voters for doing that. I want to say that I spent the last almost 4 years understanding the ins and outs of being a school board member, understanding how the budget works, what the budget looks like, what different things impact the budget, what funding mechanisms there are, what are our major issues, watching us engage our community, hiring our superintendent, supporting our administrative staff, being a representative of our students, our teachers, listening over to different complaints, trying to solve issues. I want to be a representative for our students and our teachers and our community as we open the Career and Technical Academy, as we build our new high school, and work through the challenge of COVID right now. So I think it's utmost important, and would really be happy to serve another 4 years as a Moorhead School Board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassidy?
In the past 4 years, Moorhead Public Schools, it has been very exciting at Moorhead Public Schools. We've seen growth in so many ways throughout the district. The board has set educational goals and holds the staff to high standards to ensure those goals are being met in a timely manner. I've been part of opening 2 buildings and helped to help keep the class size down and help staff reach new goals. I've served on roughly 15 committees, put in countless hours, and have kept my promise to be available to the public, including parents, students, staff, and teachers. I've strived to keep lines of communication open and have diligently listened to all concerns and celebrations. I have and will continue to spend as much time as needed researching every single thing the board votes on in order to make the best possible decision for our students. I have championed programs to help ensure not only success for students while attending Moorhead area public schools, but well into the future. As a board, we have seen an increase in graduation rates and fully understand that it's because of our dedication from our incredible team at Moorhead. A lot has happened as my time on the board, and I have heard the expression, it takes 2 to 3 years to fully understand a term in office. That's true in a lot of cases. I feel like I just got my stride.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean?
Again, I'd like to thank the other candidates as well and thank the League of Women Voters. I really learned a lot and I appreciate everyone's viewpoint. I think I can help the district find a way to navigate the financial uncertainty that they have right now and that they'll have in the future, and how to fund progress that the school system needs to get to where we all agree that they need to get, in different problems that we've discussed tonight. I personally am a lifelong learner and I'm passionate about education. And I'd appreciate if people want to learn more about me. I appreciate their vote as well. But you can look at online at seanforschoolboard.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/Sean Stumpf. Get to know the candidates, learn more about them, and get out there and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you. Like I said before, being an educator and knowing the demands of the public education, I think is what the Moorhead School Board needs now more than ever. I will continue to make students, teachers, support staff the priority of Moorhead Public Schools. I'll be open and transparent communication with them and the community. I'll be a positive change and a fresh voice for the students, the educators, and the community of Moorhead Public Schools. And I would always appreciate your support. And please get out and vote now or before November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it? Unmute as it.
Okay, yeah. So I am like today's 6 years for me to be in US, and I'm practical, I'm visual, I'm learning and adding at the same time. I have a community experience. I worked like during the last 6 years as a community leader. I meet with people regularly, and I see issues and gaps in our schools with all the efforts that we put, our teachers and staff put in the situation. I'm coming to fill some of those gaps and issues and to provide a better equity education, especially for the new American communities.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for running for office. You are an essential part of our democracy. Congratulations for getting through this Zoom forum. You've all survived despite a couple of technical glitches, so you give yourselves all gold stars. And everyone out there, please, we will have other forums coming about the Moorhead City Council and District 4. And everybody wash your hands, wear a mask, and vote. Good night.